we're going to get into the topics that we put in our blurb today, so you guys don't yell at us. The first one is a viral video coming right here out of our region. If we could show that to you guys. It is of a bizarre incident that took place. A man is driving his car into a non-moving vehicle. Nobody is in that vehicle, thankfully, but as you can see, he drives into it, he backs up, he drives back into it. At one point, he gets on top of the vehicle and starts to kick it, smash in the windows. We find out from the police, who did wait to apprehend him until he stopped, that he was under the influence of narcotics. And so a lot of people today are talking about it. It's been shared or viewed over 800,000 times on the internet. And we have a soundbite from the woman who shot this video to give you some perspective of what she was thinking while she was there on the ground. So check this out.
It's instinct to make fun of this guy, to say that, you know, there was substances, or to say that he's just completely mental. But the fact is, nobody knows except for him what he's going through. And obviously something led him to that place to where he completely came undone. And so I guess just take a second and be aware. You never know what somebody's going through.
That's so true. You literally don't know. We were just talking about Kate Spade yesterday, and people knew that she was depressed but didn't know the extent to which she was suffering, and then she committed suicide. But this guy, it was clear that he was under the influence of some sort of drug. But I was going through the comments, and if you watch Morning Blend, you know that I watch all things social overnight, and then I report back on what people are saying in the morning. Well, two of the topics that I found people were talking about, one was, what was he taking? Some were saying bath salts, some were saying maybe it was the Tide Pods. We don't know what he was taking. But the second conversation that came up was the one that blew my mind, and it was whether this incident would have played out differently from the police's point of view if that man, whose last name is Alvarez, he's definitely Hispanic, if he were black. And people were saying that after Stephon Clark, everyone is hypersensitive about how police interactions occur, especially with people that are not white. And so for this to be a brown man, people were posing questions. Would it have been different if he were black? Would the police have shot him? Would the police have apprehended him quicker?
I think really black and brown, black and brown people typically have the same point of view when it comes to police interaction. Statistically, it's like, you know, you hear about a lot of black people. I don't know the statistics, but I know that they are typically a black person's allies when it comes to police brutality. It's black and brown communities that are quote unquote over policed, or the ones that face the negative backlash from law enforcement. So, and when I saw this story, and it could just be being so optimistic, maybe police officers here in Sacramento and hopefully all across the country are being more intentional with their reactions to situations. This was obviously a mental breakdown, and hopefully they learned ever since the backlash and the cry out from Stephon Clark and so many other unarmed black men that you don't go in with guns blazing. We're like, okay, what can we do to de-escalate this situation? I think there is a focus now with Sac PD on de-escalation rather than apprehending the suspect. Because you never know what someone's going through. So I appreciate people wanting to have that, because I'm always here for the discussion when it becomes about race. But I'm so encouraged that, you know, this ended differently than Stephon Clark's story.
So Jackie Birch is saying, with all the drama surrounding the Clark family, she says, I think they are being more careful. And our producer, our digital producer, Chris Hooks, he sent us an article from the Sac B, and this was after Stephon Clark was arrested. I don't remember exactly what he was doing to be arrested, but what was interesting is how the police handled him. So he was clearly under the influence of something or suffering from mental duress. And so instead of the police approaching him, they sent in two people that he knew to talk him down from the situation and then bring him out to them. And this is another example of police in this area changing their tune a little bit.
You might remember this story. I don't know that you were here yet. I did a story with the Mann family. Joseph Mann was shot and killed by police. He was a man who had a known mental health history, and he was shot and killed by police. That happened 2 years ago, and the Stephon Clark shooting kind of reopened those old wounds for the Mann family. So I'm wondering how they think, and I'd like to reach out to Robert Mann, his brother. It was like, okay, to see this, because, you know, they were championing this is still happening. Like, how dare Sac police do this? So I'm hoping that this is like the beginning of the end of that type of situation. I am eternally hopeful about this. I hate that this man was in the situation that he felt like he had to do that and act out that way. But the fact that he went home to his family at the end of the day, thank God.
That's what we've been asking for, right, as a community. I mean, I know, Rob, you have something to say really quick, but I want to get to Jessica Downey's comment, because I noticed in the comments, and this is what we hope to initiate here is conversation, and then hey, you know what, I get that. Okay, my perspective may have just changed, and then owning up to that, because I think as a society, that's how we will continue to evolve, right? So Jessica Downey comes after you brought this up about bringing race into it. She says, he is so dangerous, no one fired a shot. Bet if he was black, he would have been shot. Was just thinking that. And then you had your comment, and you came up and said, oh, I'm hopeful that this maybe is a way in which we can actually de-escalate a situation. And then she came through and said, that's a great point, Kirsten.
Yeah.
So I just want to acknowledge the fact that these conversations can help change perspective.
Let's talk. See, that's why the conversation is important. I want to answer a viewer question real quick. Jamie, you got it?
Go for it.
Okay. Jamie Christine, hey girlfriend or guy friend. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. But I see the hyphen, so it's like no one ever mentioned if there was someone in the car and if they were okay or not. Sorry about that.
I did. Yeah.
There was no one in the car. No one was hurt. He rammed the empty car. We don't know the backstory. I have things that I made up in my head about why you rammed the empty car. But, you know, I don't know the backstory, but there was no one in the car. No one was hurt. So thank goodness, not only did this person go home with Alvarez, not only did he go home to his family, but no one was hurt. That car, though, both of those cars.
Okay, so I don't see the race issue necessarily in particular with this one right off the bat. What I do see is remarkable restraint, because you have to view this in the eyes of law enforcement, right, and the general public. There's no difference between a loaded gun, a knife, or a car. They're all deadly weapons, and he was using it.
Can I cut my hands on that?
So there's no difference.
It's true.
If there's a guy on the street pointing a gun in the air and firing it versus a guy ramming cars in the middle of the road and going crazy, it's the same threat to the general public as a gun going off in the middle of an intersection. Now, I just want to bring this up. I think we can all agree that restraint is the first step to try and figure out what's going on and making sure that nobody gets hurt, nobody's dead.
It's the toughest decision to make, I'm sure, when you're in that position to try to just de-escalate.
What my question is, and what I would love to hear comments on, is there too much restraint in this particular situation? I want you guys to imagine this, okay? This is a busy part of town. You're walking down the street with your kids, and there's a guy in a car continuing to ram a car. He's dancing on the top of the roof. I understand that he is going through something, but at that moment, my life and the life of my kids and the neighbors that I don't even know across the street and everybody else in that intersection, their lives are in danger. Because at any moment he gets in the car, he backs up, he doesn't know, he's not in charge anymore. So by standing back and letting this all play out while you're there, while you do have non-lethal ways to intervene, a beanbag shotgun, a taser, and things like that. However, I don't know all the rules when they're allowed to use that, when it's safe for them. I don't know all that. My question is this. Is there too much restraint in this particular situation that they actually could have, by not doing anything, actually endangered all the people around there by saying we're just going to wait because of Stephon Clark, because of all these things, we're just going to hold back and then let this thing play out. I mean, is it too much restraint?
I hear you. To your point, that is a very good question. I want you guys to sound off in the comments. I'll tell you, just since I've been in the area covering these stories, there was another situation where someone actually had a gun, and I think it was Yolo County Sheriff's deputies. Someone had a gun, and they were serving a warrant on a mobile home, and he fired shots at them. They didn't return fire, and he was taken to jail. I think that showed incredible restraint there, and I think that happened around about the same time as the Stephon Clark. So there are de-escalation tactics. For this situation, I think that shows a little bit more. I think they probably secure, when I think about being on a live reporter on live shots, they probably secure the perimeter, make sure no one can get in that area. So he's going to hit a police car before he hits any other civilians car. I'm hoping. I'm trying to give a shout out to the police work in this case here.
Yeah, I totally understand that. We're assuming the best in this. What I see is an unobstructed view from the person taking the cell phone video directly to the car that could easily have been backed up. So yes, I think that's the plan. That's what's supposed to happen. But remember, if you watch the video, these things are happening very fast. He goes from in the car to backing up, and maybe it's over to then re-engaging in aggression and potentially deadly behavior. Right, so, this is a tough one. You feel for the guy. You don't want anybody to die if they're on drugs or going through a mental episode. But at the same time, this person could kill you.
It's true. You want everyone else to be safe.
Why do you have to die for this?
I like what Mike Angelo is saying. when people all over are starting to go crazy, we must look at the environment. What is causing people to go crazy? We must ask these questions. That's a good point. Is there a factor that we need to be looking at in our environments that's causing people to have more mental issues now than before? I don't know what the statistics are for mental health in this country, but it would be interesting to look at.
Yeah. Novella says you never know. He could have just lost his job. Sure, we don't know. There could be so many reasons as to why one acts in this way. Ginger Ellis says, so he was driving under the influence, but he went home? Okay, and has a rolly eye emoji.
And that will get under people's skin. Yeah. You took other people's lives.
And you get off?
And you, no. It's like, not you get off, but it was like you took other people's lives into your hands. You were driving under the influence. That is incredibly dangerous. Yeah. That could be so deadly. And I get her point. It was like people have lost lives because people were high and drinking or drinking and driving. There are situations where people lose their lives. So I get her wanting to call
it. But my question is, but you would rather, and so this insinuates, so you would rather have seen this person die?
No. I think her point is that she wanted them to go to jail, not go home. They should be serving time for even being behind the wheel. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, girlfriend.
Yeah,
but I saw your point, and that's exactly what I was thinking. She wanted them to go to jail and suffer some type of severe consequence for if they were high on narcotics. They should be at jail rather than at home.
Jackie Birch, I agree with you on this one. Society always goes for the negative. I talked about this with social media. You get the good and you get the bad when you look at comments. She says the police department did something good here. They're trying, but nobody can give them kudos. It just jumps to the race card, and it's sad, in her opinion. She says, good job, PD. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think this, as Rob said, was an incredible example of restraint. And just another, one of my friends, she says, when you're trying to create a new good habit, you have to fight your mind that keeps reminding you of all the times you failed. And so it's about setting these little reminder points. I did this good thing. Check that off. I did this other good thing, check that off. And it's hitting these little milestones that will remind you and set that next habit for you. And I say this because we have so many instances in our mind to think about times when the police department did something that we don't agree with. But if we start to look at the times that they were good and the times that they acted positively, maybe we can start to train our minds to see the positive in what they do.
And when Aaron Hobson says, here we go with the race card, pulling it up again or pulling it out again, because we did pose the question. So as media, you're probably asking, well, we're saying this, we want to say thank you to PD for doing something good, yet we bring up the question and plant that seed in your brain to think about. And the reason why we're doing that is because it came up so much directly after this conversation. It's like, we're like, you know what, today?
How do we know the race car?
No, we don't do that in our meetings.
How can we make
this
about
don't want
race?
that to always be the conversation, which is why we have to, you guys are talking about it, let's not ignore it, because if we ignore it, then what are we saying?
Exactly.
Well, that's not important, we're not going to bring that up. It is to you guys still. Maybe not to everyone, but it's still
uncomfortable conversation all the way around, and it's like, we sometimes when, I think I'm the only African American at this table. It's like, to be in my position is like whenever we have the race issue, it's like I feel like my point of view represents the entire race, and I don't. I'm just one girl from the hood, so it's like I can't represent everyone because my perspective is so limited. So whenever we have the race issue, I'm like I remember talking to Ariane because she's my friend, so she knows personally. It's like I don't want to participate in the race conversations, but I believe in having the conversation and having the tough conversation so much so that I participate. But no, we don't come like how we throw the race card in there. That's not what I'm here for.
No. Marion Dayton, I want one last comment to come in, sort of wrap this up, and then we'll move on to our next topic. But Marion Dayton, as we know, is Miss Ariane's mom. She always brings in good points and doesn't always agree with her daughter.
No, she does not.
That. She said, maybe he needed or needs mental help. Jail is probably not what is needed in this case. I think the police handled the situation in the best way possible based on their assessment. And she's saying that's how she feels about police in general.
Do we do mental health for drug? I guess drug abuse or drug addiction could be like a mental health thing.
Under the umbrella of.
I guess I can go under that. So
incarcerating someone, putting them in a cage, is that going to help it? Because what happens when they get out?
I feel that. I don't know that our jails are equipped to handle, and I know that they're not. Our jails are not equipped to handle mental health issues or mental health patients. At home, we have a hospital where there is a criminal mental health issue, and they have a separate institution where they go to. I don't know enough about here. I can just probably Google that.
Criminal reform, though, it's a big topic, and we're talking about it next.
Exactly.
With the next
So
they do. Some people serve their time in a psychiatric hospital essentially because I remember this one case in Santa Barbara, a kid mentally unwell. He drove a car. He killed 4 people in Isla Vista. I was not there that weekend, but it happened in my town, and he was convicted, and he served out his time in a mental health facility within the correctional, institution or whatever. So there are in some cases, they are under 24/7 care while they serve out their time.
Thanks for watching us here on the ABC 10 Information Network. If you want to see more stories just like this one, click subscribe.